Okay, this is lesson 4.4, writing linear equations in standard form. This is the next form that we're going to look at. So to review, we've talked about two forms so far. One is going to be slope-intercept form, which we know as y equals mx plus b. It's probably the most famous one. The next one we did is point-slope form, which is written as y minus y1, where y1 is some number, and then equals m x minus x1, where x1 is some number as well. Today we're talking about standard form, and that's going to be written as ax plus by equals c. And that's where a and b, and actually and c, are both numbers. Okay. A and B are coefficients, but all three of those, A, B, and C, are numbers. So when we write things in standard form, okay, this is what it looks like when we have some example with actual numbers in there. And so we can kind of take a look at this and say, well, I can write this in a different way. And one way that I can write this in a different way, but still be the same equation, is if I do something to this number, but then I also have to do the same thing to this number and do the same thing to this number. So write two equations in standard form that are equivalent to this. One thing I could do is just multiply everything by some number. Doesn't matter. How about 2? So if I multiply everything by 2, then the 3x becomes a 6x. The minus 9y becomes minus 18y, and the 12 becomes 24. So it's written differently, it looks different, and the numbers are changed, but if I would graph this, it would be the exact same line because I did the same thing to all three of those numbers. So another thing I could do, well, all of these are divisible by 3, so another thing I could do is divide by 3. I could divide by any number, but I'm choosing 3 because it's fairly easy. So 3x divided by 3 will just turn to x. Minus 9y divided by 3 will turn into 3y. And then 12 divided by 3 will turn into a 4. So again, different way of writing it, but it's equivalent because it'll be the same line when you graph it. All right, so write an equation from a graph. So write an equation in standard form of the line show. So the trick of this is to actually write it in point-slope forms, which, if you don't remember, is this one up here. We're going to write it first in this form, and then we're just going to switch it around so that both of the x's and the y's are on the same side. So let me show you how that works. Well, you've done this before, where you want to get what the slope is, because that's one of the things you need for the point slope form. So you can use the slope formula, or since I have a graph, I can just go up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 over 3. So up 3 over 6. My m is going to be 6 over 3, or just 2. So there's my m right there. And so now I can just pick one of these points, does not matter, this one, and I'll choose that to write in point-slope form. So this one will go y, because that's a minus 3, it'll be plus 3, is equal to, my m is 2, and it'll be x plus 2. So that's the equation written in point-slope form. Now all I have to do is get that x on the same side as the y, and I want to get that 3 on the same side as well, where the x was. So the first thing I would do is distribute that 2. Once I do that, that becomes y plus 3 is equal to 2x plus 4. And so now I need to do two things. One of the things I'm going to do is subtract 2x on both sides. And in the same step, I'm going to subtract 3 on both sides. So that'll do both of the things that I need to do. So I'm going to write negative 2x. I always put that out first. And even though the y didn't have any sign on it, even though it didn't show it, it's actually a plus. So it would be plus y is equal to, let's see, the x is gone. The 2x is gone with that. And these 3's are gone. So that leaves me with 4 minus 3, so that's just a 1 on this side. And now it's in standard form. Now, some textbooks don't like it when the leading coefficient on the x is a negative. So one way that I can change this is just to multiply this entire equation by -1. And I can do that as long as I do it to every single one, because we showed up here that you can do anything you want, as long as it's done to everything. So when I multiply that -2x by -1, it becomes positive x, but now that y is negative, and now that 1 is negative. So I would actually take either one. All right, so this last one here, write an equation in standard form, the line that passes through these points right here. We're going to do the same exact thing. First, we're going to write it in point-slope form, and then convert it into standard form. So here I don't have a graph, so I'm going to have to use the slope formula. So 4 minus 2, and then 4 minus 8. So I get 4 minus 2 is 2, 4 minus 8 is -4, and that simplifies down to a -1/2. So now I'll choose y, and then I'll choose this one. Does not matter. So y minus 4 is equal to -1/2 x minus 4. Okay? Now, here I could distribute that -1/2. That is one option. I could do the same thing I did up here. But another thing that I could do is just get rid of the fraction, because I hate fractions, and if I can, I want to get rid of it. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm not going to distribute it. I'm going to eliminate it by multiplying by 2. Because if I multiply by 2, then these two things will just cancel each other out. It'll go to 1. Okay? And not only that, I also want to get rid of the negative part of the -1/2, so I'm going to multiply by a -2. Okay? And by doing that, then those two will cancel out. Now, I can do that, it's a legal move, but only if I also do it to this side. And I'm not doing it to in the same direction, but that's okay. So, now on the left side, I'm going to get, let's see, this one I am going to distribute, so I'm going to get -2y, or -2y, and then plus 8 on that side. And then on this side, well, because these two cancel out, went to 1, I just get x minus 4. Okay, the stuff that was in the parentheses. So now I'm going to do the same thing I did before, where I need to get this x on the other side, so I'm going to subtract on both sides. And I'm going to go ahead in this same step, subtract my 8 on both sides as well. So now, I'll bring this over here and see what I get. I'll get a -x minus 2y. The 8's are gone, so equals, and then I get this -4 minus another 8. Well, because they're both negative, I add them and keep the sign. Okay? And so the only thing I might do now is, I don't really love this negative in front of the x, so I'm going to change the sign of the x, and then I'm going to change the sign of everything else. As long as I do that, then that's a legal move. I can do it, and that's how you write the equation in standard form.